Hello, I'm Sarah. This is Hardcover Hearts. And I've been away for a little bit. I've had kind of a spotty record of recording this autumn and at the end of this year. I really love this time of year for its slowdown, its time to reflect, its opportunity to take stock and to set up new plans for next year. I am a planner, so this is kind of my jam, as well as the fact that it's the time where I really like to hold some special books off because I know that I'm going to have uninterrupted reading time. So yeah, this betwixtmas, I don't know who coined that phrase, but it's fantastic, between Christmas and New Year's, is just such a special time of year. I love it so much. So today I wanted to talk about my reflections on this year of reading and tee up what I expect or I'm hoping to accomplish next year in terms of reading, in terms of this community, in terms of my participation with the social media community that's here on Bookstagram and also on Litsy, because I really love those communities. So let's get started. Okay, it's been a year for the record books. I think the one thing that I learned this year is that continual progress, daily focus and energy, even if it's incremental, even if it feels like you're not making progress, has huge payoffs. And what I mean by that is that I finished so many projects that I had set up for myself during the pandemic that I kind of potentially thought maybe it won't happen, maybe it won't work, but let's try anyway. And I took a leap of faith. And by taking that leap of faith, I actually accomplished what I wanted to do, which is, I can't even tell you the joy that gives me. What I won't be doing though, in case you're looking for my best of list, that's not going to come out until like end of January, February. Expect that closer to Valentine's Day, because I've saved a bunch of books for this period of time, this uninterrupted reading time, right? So I look at the best of lists that are coming out and I start to pull what I have and that helps me prioritize what I want to finish the year with. So I have a pretty aggressive reading schedule for the next few days as we exit the year. But I'm incredibly excited by all of them. And then I want to let it all sit, because my first reaction tends to be highly positive. But it's upon further reflection, as things kind of settle, that I start to see like what actually stood out among all of the books that I've read. And I've read a tremendous amount of books this year. It's been another phenomenal year in terms of both quantity and quality. One thing I want to say is I probably would read this stuff anyway, but the community, you all, also my buddy readers, also the people who joined group reads with me, I can't thank you enough for pushing me forward, for inspiring me, for talking with me, for engaging with me deeply in this material, sharing some recommendations, just joining every week or every time I put a video and saying hello or telling me what you think of the books that I share. The joy that I get is monumental. And the whole reason that I started the BookTube channel was because I don't have people in my life that read like I do. Actually, I have a few in my in real life book club. And so it's really, I just don't have a community other than here of people that are like me, that read as if it's our job. Well, but it's not. That have a passion and a deep resonance with the written word. And so it's unique, it's special, and I value it tremendously. So I do want to start off by just saying thank you. Thank you for all of it. Okay, so what did I get done? So first off, I finished the Virginia Woolf project that I set up with Elizabeth of Bookish North. And this is over a year project. All of her fiction work in a buddy read form. And we would share our observations, our thoughts, things that we noticed, things that we resonated with, or things that we had questions. Oh my God, so many questions. So many questions. But by reading it in publication order, it really allowed us to see where she was playing with style and where she started to evolve it, and these leaps that she took in her writing. So we were able, where maybe there were some books that we didn't appreciate as much as others between the acts, we could see the evolution. We could see how she was framing it up and where she was going at from a craft perspective. And I just want to thank her so much. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your brilliance. And I think we both took it very seriously. And also we weren't starstruck by Virginia Woolf. You know, we were able to deal with her as a writer and look at the material and really quantify for ourselves which pieces worked, which didn't, what did we like, what did we not like, and the experience was phenomenal. I also finished, this one I finished on my own, so it took a lot longer. I finished all of Proust's work, In Search of Lost Time. This reading experience was astounding. I did an entire video on how and why to read In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I'll put a link to that below. And this was one of the highlights of the pandemic for me, was the ability to just consistently, not as consistently as I would have liked, because it took me a long time, but to return and to allow myself to be absorbed by the material every time I returned to it. And now I feel like my eyes were opened and I see Proustian moments everywhere. I get when people make references. So there's a language that's kind of been unlocked for me because of finishing In Search of Lost Time. And that's something that I'd wanted to do for ages, but I was really intimidated. But BookTube really inspired me, so thank you all for that. I started a reading journal. So here it is. It's massive. This is a Hobonichi that I got just for this. I'll probably do a video and I'll show some of my evolution of my pages and spreads and all of that for anybody who's interested. I don't want to. I'll make that a detour different video. So that has been fantastic, and I already have my next one teed up and ready to go. I might switch out the covers because I kind of like this cover a little more than this one after I got it. We'll see. This just is so bright and sunny, but my other ones are all have this same color scheme, so we'll see. This year I participated in all of the rounds for the BookTube Prize Translated Fiction, which was really exciting. It was the first year that Robert was able to do translated fiction. Now my understanding is not enough people were able to sign up this year, so translated fiction is not going to be part of the BookTube Prize this coming year. But I really enjoyed the experience of pushing myself to read books that I wouldn't have from places that I'm not as familiar with, in translation. So that was a fantastic experience. Loved it very much. I was able to return to Europe. So travel is very, very important to me. Other than books, it's the next biggest love of my life. Well, that's my husband, my family first, then travel and books. And so being able to spend a significant amount of time, a sabbatical in Europe, going to Italy and then Switzerland, Paris, spending a week in Paris, going to Edinburgh, Manchester, and London, And in that process, being able to meet up with so many people that I have read with, that I talk to regularly, including my dear literary soulmate, Leo, of Leo's Little Book Life. He's on Instagram, but you'll hear more of him coming up. But we were able to meet up in Manchester and go to the Elizabeth Gaskell House and meeting for the first time. Our joke was we didn't want to be like Helene Hanff of 84 Charing Cross Road. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read it, but I'm going to be hosting again the annual New Year's Day readathon of Helene Hanff's 84 Charing Cross Road, an epistolary novel between a New York writer and avid bibliophile and a bookstore in London right after World War II. And but we always joke that we didn't want to be Helene and Frank. And for those of you who've read the book, you'll know what I mean. So being able to meet Leo in person after reading so many books together and doing so many projects together was an absolute dream. And when we were out to dinner and he posted a photo on his Instagram of both of us together, and we kept our meeting secret. And all of the comments that flew in were just so wonderful. You all were just as happy, it felt, as we were too, that we finally got a chance to meet up. We also met up with Charlie of Charles Heathcote, of his BookTube channel. I was able to meet up with Eric Carl Anderson and spend a day with him, and I'll put a link to the video we made together. And we had lunch in next to the Virginia Woolf's statue in Tavistock Square, and then went to his house and filmed, and it was just absolutely delightful after doing a little shopping at the London Review of Books. I met up with Elizabeth. She actually came to London and we spent an entire day together, which was just wonderful. And we did a whole book crawl and read together and had just a fantastic day. And I met up with Sian and Bert from Past Story Time, and they met us, my husband and I, in Bath, and we went to Persephone and then went to another bunch of bookshops and had a lovely tea lunch right there in Bath. It was just the thing of dreams. I mean, I could not have imagined when I started BookTube that I would not only have a place to talk about all the things that I love, but that other people would respond and I'd be able to form these really deep connections with people. So it's been a joy, an absolute joy. Then I was also able in that trip to practice my Italian and French that I've been doing a bunch of Duolingo studies, and then in French I have a tutor that I started this year, which has been frightening, very, very scary, challenging, difficult, but so worth it, so worth it. And then to be able to use the French and Italian that I've learned in those countries was amazing, so exciting. Also challenging and scary. And then going to all the used bookstores all over, going into a Paris bookstore and taking the leap and buying some French books in French. Scary, but that's going to be something that I'm going to try to do next year. And I ended up filming so much of my book haul from Europe that it's actually 5 videos because I didn't want them to all be too long. So I'll put a link to those videos so you can see what I got if you haven't seen that already. But that's been wonderful. And so it's kind of a review of the trip and the people I met and what we did. Then I went through and I tallied up. I read 30 books as buddy reads with friends. 30 books as buddy reads. So most of them, yes, were with Leo of Leo's Little Book Life, but I also read with Eric Carl Anderson this year. I read with Elizabeth, as I mentioned, of Bookish North, and Natalie of A Curious Reader. And there's something about reading book slowly with somebody else that just allows you to really get to know them in a completely different way, where you're connected to the text and then you see things from their perspective and learn more about them. I think it's delicious. I love it so much. So thank you all for spending the time with me to read those books. Then let's talk about another thing that I completed. I developed a deep, deep love for Anthony Trollope this year, and I finished both the Palliser series and then the Chronicles of Barchester. And I did those, I did the Palliser, and then the Chronicles of Barchester I did with Leo of Leo's Little Book Life. And I have so much of an appreciation for Trollope. I'm going to do an entire separate video, how and why to read Trollope. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming up maybe this week. I'll film it and then we'll see when I get it up. But I cannot recommend him more highly. He is fantastic in so many different ways. So stay tuned for that. Then I did 3 big group reads of big books. We did Tomb of Sand, and so this is what won the Booker International. This is by Gitanjali Shree, and it was translated by Daisy Rockwell. Partition novel, written in Hindi. Really interesting novel, very different than I've ever read before. This one really benefited from a group who were from around the globe who helped me to see different aspects that I would have missed, help explain different cultural pieces in the book, help to bring forward aspects that I just would have glided right by, and enriched this reading experience so much. I'm delighted that you all joined me to read this book over a month. Thank you. Then we also read Book of Jacob by Olga Tatarchuk, and this was translated by Jennifer Croft. This was also a chunky big book. Olga Tatarchuk is a Polish writer and really took on this exploration in kind of biblical form of Jacob, who was a wannabe Messiah in what is now kind of the Ukraine, Poland/Ukraine. Fascinating. Really also good to read this with other people. I may have DNF'd this if I was just reading it by myself, but reading it with others also was just a great experience. Then we kept the party going, and a lot of the people who participated in those also came along for the final group read that I did this year, and this was the Balkan Trilogy by Olivia Manning. Fantastic novel. This is a World War II novel that opens in Romania as war is breaking out, and we have a young honeymooning couple who don't really know that much about each other. They're English, and he's posted in Romania as a teacher. And we see the encroachment of war, and it's fascinating, so good, really paced, and the characters are amazing, and we loved it so much. So much so that I've already announced this, but I'll re-announce it here, is in January I'm going to host The Fortunes of War. This is the Levant Trilogy, so it's the continuation of these characters as they move to a different location after this trilogy. So this is the Levant Trilogy by Olivia Manning, part of the Fortunes of War saga. We'll be reading this in January. I'll put a link to the sign-up form below. As I do with all of my group reads, we only do a check-in once a week, so I divide the book into however many weeks there are in that month, and then we read up to that point, and we talk about that point, anything happened up to that point. And we have a check-in, and it's global. It's done on Voxer. It's phenomenal. If I do say so myself, I hope anybody who's read with me will chime in about how great the experience is. But I love it deeply. I love doing these types of group reads. So this will be the January group read with me, and I already have a bunch of people who've signed up. So really excited to jump right in. Also this year, I again fell in love with nonfiction. I had a phenomenal nonfiction November. Just, it felt like one book led to another book that was in conversation with something else. And I just followed my passions, and often they're about art, they're about history. A lot of times they're about Italy and France and Europe and strong women, strong characters. And I just loved the experience of just focusing one month on an exploration of these types of themes that resonate with me. So that was just so much fun. And then last but not least, this happened the Boxing Day. Leo and I finished our 2+ year project of reading all of Anita Brookner's works. So let me get all these together. So we have completed all 24 novels. They're only, I think they're just, I'm missing one. One wasn't published in this Penguin edition. I just love these Penguin style books. I mean, this has got to be one for the ages. Look at that cover. I will be doing a wrap-up of the Anita Brookner project. The experience of taking the leap with Leo, this is what led me to then say, okay, I can do Virginia Woolf as a project. I can do Proust as a project, because we were very successful in continuing at least once a month, unless I was traveling, to read an Anita book. We feel like we know her because her themes are so similar from book to book to book. So we are waiting with bated breath on Hermione Lee's biography of her, which is supposed to come out next year. So I'm very glad that we've accomplished what we said we were going to do. There were a couple times, I have to admit, where I wasn't sure if we were going to finish, just because the books became more of the same as it got later in her reading, and it was just a lot. It was very repetitious. I think if you just pick one or two, it's not going to be as intense as reading 24 in essence back to back. But I'm so proud of us for finishing. And we have so many tropes in our mind that we know are Anita things, that we have a lot of jokes that we have from reading all of these. Put all of these aside. Okay, so that's my year. As you can tell, I'm incredibly proud of completing all of that in just 1 year. So let's talk about what's changed and things that I've noticed about doing BookTube, about my reading plans and how I read and all of that. One of the first things is that I got a new role at my company, and the new role is incredibly fulfilling. It's so exciting. I work with creatives, I work with artists, and all of that is incredibly exciting. I think it sparks something in my reading, and I want to read more about creatives. I want to read more about art and all of that good stuff. But it also means that a lot of times I'm exhausted at the end of the day because most now I'm leading bigger teams, and I spend so much time talking. I spend so much time in meetings solidly through the day that I think it has had an effect on my aptitude, ability, time to be able to do this, to chat with you all. So that's been a joy and a little bit of a detriment. It's meant more spotty week of reading, whereas I used to be very regimented. I haven't been able to be as much. So I have to figure out how to weave this more into my week, as opposed to what I've been doing, which is waiting until Sunday and then filming on Sunday. But I'll be honest, there are some Sundays where I don't want to put on makeup. I don't want to get out of my pajamas. I just need to decompress, and that's been some of the challenge. So that's what I want to do better next year. I also made a decision to ignore social media trends. And what I mean by that is I don't think of myself as a creator or influencer. My focus, as I mentioned, is reading. It's just reading and building community and connecting with other very passionate, deep bibliophiles out there. And as such, I don't care about creating content to find people. I feel like the people who will gravitate toward me will be my audience. So I'm not doing reels. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not chasing the algorithm. My focus really is in doing the reading that prepares me for the conversations that I want to have with you all. And that's it. That's really it. So I'm more focused on the conversations and the dialogue that we share. And it's very important to me that after I put out a video, that I leave some time so that I check in and I come back and I respond to every comment. If there's something that I can respond to, I don't want to just, sometimes it's just a thank you. Sometimes it's I agree. But it's important to me that that I've seen your comments and that I respect and care about them and appreciate them very, very much, because that's what I'm looking for, is this conversation. And I'm not looking for debate, which, you all, the subscribers that seem to have gravitated to me, seem to also not be ones to nitpick or debate or go back and forth. And it's not that I'm not interested in alternate opinions. I am very curious when other people see something differently or read something that I haven't read or see something differently. But I think that's very different than debating the merits of something or telling me I'm wrong and they're right. Right? I hope that makes sense. But I'm really always looking for, I'm curious about how other people approach the same things that I do. I get so much out of this experience that I keep coming back. I keep taking especially this year, taking this time off, and then just missing it, just really missing the act of talking about what I've read and seeing what you all think about the same books. One thing that I wanted to do this year that I didn't have time, I just did not have time to do, was to work on my blog. So in my mind, the ideal process is that I post about what I'm about to read. So maybe tee up what's currently in flight for me on Instagram, on Litsy. Then I do this week of reading and also maybe do a little review wrap up on my blog, write it out, right? And also then on Litsy. I don't want to just do reviews on Instagram. I know a lot of people do that, but I feel like I'd rather do that on my blog than in Instagram. I'm really cognizant that we're creating content for other companies, including YouTube, but this, at least here, I have a little bit more control because I tend to be a little more verbose. So it's not about like these little bite-sized things. And then also I have more control in my own blog. So I'd love to do a little bit more of that. I just hope I can find the time and the process flow that makes it so it's not so onerous. So wish me luck. If you're somebody who does a blog regularly, please, and also has a very demanding full-time job, please reach out to me. I would love to know how you do it. What's your process, how you do the flow of that. So let's talk about next year, shall we? Okay, so I've got a lot of plans, as you might imagine. So the first is I want to commit to doing at least one video every single week. So my week of wrap up, that format works for me. I think you all like it. I seem to have good reaction, not just from the watch numbers, but also the engagement and what you all mention about it. So I'd like to continue doing that. I also want to at least do one deeper review for one book, kind of one highlighted book each month. So I think I might try to move into that direction, whether it's a book review or why to read a specific author or a wrap up of some projects that I've done or a theme. So I want to do at least one other video like that every single month. Group reads. So I mentioned that we'll be doing the Balkan Trilogy in January. I'm also starting a series. So I've done this before and it was very successful, and I'm going to open it up again. This is going to be an author series, and so it's going to span a few months. So it's going to start in February and go until June. And I want to explore the work of Shirley Hazzard. So Shirley Hazzard, there's a biography that just came out, and she's a very interesting writer. She's a backlisted writer, and she writes stylistically very beautiful sentence structure, beautiful imagery, thoughtful writer, thoughtful craftswoman. I've read 2 of her 4 novels, so I'm kind of breaking my own rules, where usually I want to explore someone that I've never read, whereas this time I actually want to reread some of the books that I've already read, and then read the other 2 plus her short stories. I'll have more about that. I'll do a specific video kind of talking about which books, but she wrote 4 books and then a short story collection, and so we'll read all of those together. I'll put out a specific video, but I'll also set up below a sign up form. So the idea being, join us for all of those. We'll read 1 book each month, and it'll be the same format that I always do. So if you're so interested in exploring Shirley Hazzard with me and a bunch of smart people, please join in for that. Then for myself, I was very inspired by Didi. Didi does Brown Girl Reading or Reads, I forget which one. I'll put a link to her channel below. She's been reading Émile Zola's famous 24 novel series, Le rougon-macquart. And she mentioned it, I looked it up, and I'd already recognized some of the novels, didn't realize they were all in a series. So I am going to undertake this, and I'm going to read 1 a month for 2 years. So I'm very, very excited to get started with that in January. I also am going to be exploring go deep dives with some other authors. So Henry James is one, and Simone de Beauvoir. So I'm going to be reading both of those with Leo from LeosLittleBookLife. Then we're also going to read some Sybil Bedford together. I want to explore more Elizabeth Colgate and Ivy Compton Burnett. So those are some that I'm going to explore. I'm going to be doing a quartet buddy read. I've never done a quartet buddy read. This is going to be with the Charlies and Leo, and we're going to be reading Nino Hartishvili's new novel. She wrote The Eighth Life, and her new novel, My Soul Twin, is coming out soon, so we're going to buddy read that sometime next year. Then I also want to continue on reading Magda Szabo's books. Natalie from A Curious Reader and I have 2 more to do. I just saw there was a release of another translation recently. So that means we have 2 to read together. So hopefully we'll be able to squeeze that in this year. I'm going to continue with my reading journal. I mentioned that before. And I'm also going to be starting a daily French and Italian journals. So day-to-day specifics, smaller journals. So I'm going to be doing that next year, continuing with my daily Duolingo, as I have done, and my French tutoring. I want to read more translated fiction, so really focusing on it to Italy and France. So I have a whole bunch that I collected when I was traveling, and so I want to get to those. More nonfiction throughout the year, not just in Nonfiction November, but as going through the year, because I think I just enjoyed it so much. I want to do that. And then, as I mentioned, I want to do more on my blog as well as Instagram and Litzy. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm curious. I can't wait to see other people's plans. If you have specific plans that you're going to be doing next year, please let me know below, because that might inspire me to change something up or add something too. But I hope you have had a tremendous 2022, and here's to an even better 2023. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.